twese hamwe birashoboka.
We got you updated. This is Radio Manzi News in English.
This is Radio Imanzi, broadcasting from Kigali. Here is the news in English, brought to you by Fiona Umuganwa. The headlines. President Paul Kagame says equality is a right, not a favor. We must challenge ourselves to do even more and better to ensure that the next generations of our daughters and granddaughters inherit a nation where their aspirations have no limits. Nyagatare women are celebrating the International Women's Day with a completed factory of processing maize meal. 2 weeks before Rwanda counts exactly 2 years since the first COVID-19 case was recorded in the country, the Ministry of Health announced that 60% of its population have been vaccinated against COVID-19. Germany has one of the highest rates of femicide in Europe. Now the news in detail. Kagame says equality is a right, not a favor. We must challenge ourselves to do even more and better to ensure that the next generations of our daughters and granddaughters inherit a nation where their aspirations have no limits. The president made the remarks on his Twitter page as Rwanda today joined other countries across the globe in celebration of the International Women's Day, usually held on March 8th every year. He pointed out that from the beginning, RPF has walked the talk by creating an environment that enabled women to take their rightful place. Gender equality has always been central to the politics of RPF. The progress we see in Rwanda today is a result of this commitment to inclusivity. This year's edition is celebrated under the theme Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. The Minister of State in the Ministry of Youth and Culture, Bamorisi Edward, said celebrating Women's Day goes hand in hand with liberation. Rwanda has fought so hard for women's rights and gender equality. This was said during the celebration of the International Women's Day in Nyarugenge District, Kigali City. Nyagatare women are celebrating the International Women's Day with a completed factory for processing maize meal. The women who made the cooperative known as Twitezimbere, located in Musheri sector, consist some who have been making money illegally by crossing the border between Rwanda and Uganda. They decided to quit and join the cooperative society, which is giving them a decent income. 2 weeks before Rwanda counts exactly 2 years since the first COVID-19 case was recorded in the country, the Ministry of Health announced that 60% of Rwanda's population have been vaccinated against COVID-19 with 2 doses. Rwanda is close to reaching the World Health Organization's global target to vaccinate 70% of its population by mid-2022. The state minister in charge of primary health care, Dr. Tarsis Munga, said that the current vaccination and infection rates might mean that even if a new variant emerges in the future, there is confidence that its effects would be less severe and measures to contain the virus would be less strict. Farmers in Rusizi districts have called on the authorities to help them construct terraces on their farmlands to stop soil erosion caused by running water from hillsides. The Ruhwa River separates Rwanda and Burundi, but the course of the river has been changing because of human activities, soil erosion, and lack of conservation measures. The governor of Western Province, Habitegeko Francois, says that Rwandan districts and Burundian communes have been given the responsibility to plant bamboo trees along the riverbanks. It has been decided that the authorities in both sides of the border will meet in at least every 6 months to discuss and evaluate conservation measures along the riverbanks. After 2 years of being shut, Rwanda's borders have fully opened to ordinary citizens from Uganda, Tanzania, and DRC. The only exception is Burundi, that has not reciprocated the gesture and is keeping the border with Rwanda closed. According to the Burundian authorities, the only obstacle remaining is the issue surrounding the alleged perpetrators of the attempted coup in Burundi in 2015. Burundi demands that the alleged suspects currently living in exile in Rwanda be handed over before normal relations are resumed. More than 20 Rwandan specialty coffee exporters are expected to participate at the 4th edition of COFEX in Istanbul from March 17th to 20th, 2022. This prestigious expo will also help Rwandans to establish new trade connections with Turkish and Middle East markets. According to organizers, the event that will take place in the Holy Congress Center in Istanbul is the biggest international trade fair and promotion platform for coffee in the Middle East. Rwanda's continued presence at various international exhibitions will trigger wide interest in the country's high-quality coffee.
Some items of international news on Radio Imanzi.
Uganda's first son and commander of land forces, Lieutenant General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, has announced his retirement from the army. In a tweet today, General Muhoozi said he was retiring from Uganda People's Defense Forces, where he has held various command positions and is currently the third highest ranking officer in the military. This comes a day after he announced that he had achieved what diplomats had failed to do by helping to normalize Uganda-Rwanda relations, leading to the full reopening of Rwanda's borders. An outbreak of yellow fever has claimed 4 lives in Kenya since it was first detected in January. Kenya, which has not experienced an outbreak of yellow fever since the 1990s, detected its first case in decades on January 12th and had until last week isolated 15 patients with fever, jaundice, and muscle pain. The cases were reported in the pastoralist and remote county of Isiolo, some 270 kilometers north of the capital Nairobi. There is no specific treatment for yellow fever. It's a viral hemorrhagic disease transmitted by infected mosquitoes and found in parts of Africa and Latin America's Amazon region. Sudanese security forces have raided the offices of an independent committee probing a 2019 crackdown in which more than 100 demonstrators were killed. Lawyer Nabil Adib said the committee's offices have been taken over by security forces who have allowed other civilian authorities to enter. The committee members were not allowed to retrieve the inquiry's material, but has decided to stop operations until after the offices have been evacuated by those who raided it. They are conducting a security check to ensure that no documents have been tampered with and that there remains no equipment which could be used to reveal security secrets. The Libyan Transitional Council of Ministers, headed by Abdelhamid Diba, has suspended the implementation of an agreement with the United Nations on gender equality. According to the official statement, the suspension was taken as a precaution in view of the conflict of some of its articles with the provisions of Islamic Sharia. However, Huria Tumal, the Minister of State for Women's Affairs, who has been widely criticized by the Islamists, made it clear that last October, when the agreement was signed, that national law takes precedence in the event of contradiction. This step has sparked widespread controversy among Libyans and fears that this could contradict Libyan legislation and laws as well as religious values. Food warnings stretched across Australia's east coast today, and tens of thousands of Sydney residents fled their homes overnight as torrential rains again pummeled the country's largest city, causing flash floods. 2 people were found dead today near an abandoned car in a stormwater canal in Western Sydney. The Queensland Police confirmed the death tally to be 20 since the deluge began. Most people were found dead either in flooded homes or in cars attempting to cross flooded roads. Emergency services estimate around 70,000 to 80,000 people in Greater Sydney face evacuation orders and urge people to follow them. Prime Minister Scott Morrison said more Defence Force personnel were being sent to flood-affected areas. Germany has one of the highest rates of femicide in Europe. According to statistics from the Federal Criminal Police Office, in December 2021, the pandemic has only made the situation worse. Despite the tireless work of support groups for victims of domestic violence, the number of femicides continues to rise. Activists condemn a failure by police to take women's cases seriously enough, as well as legal shortcomings in German law. Attacks on hospitals, ambulances, and other healthcare facilities in Ukraine have increased rapidly in recent days, and the country is running short of vital medical supplies. The World Health Organization confirmed today that at least 9 people have died in 16 attacks on healthcare facilities since the start of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The World Health Organization Senior Emergency Officer for Europe, Catherine Smallwood, told a news briefing that the tally included incidents where ambulances had been commandeered for purposes other than emergency health care. The European Regional Director Hans Kluger said the World Health Organization is working to rapidly provide medical supplies to Ukraine, where oxygen, insulin, personal protective equipment, surgical items, and blood products are running low. Economic news is a regular feature on Radio Imanzi. The Rwanda Stock Exchange Market Report. Today's trading session recorded a total turnover of 15 million Rwandan francs from 60,000 shares traded in one deal on the equities market, and 9,719,300 Rwandan francs worth of bonds traded in two deals on the fixed income market. Bank of Kigali counter closed at 250 Rwandan francs. The trading session recorded a total turnover of 15 million Rwandan francs from 60 shares traded in one deal. Gregor closed the counter at 125 Rwandan francs. I&M Bank closed the counter at 45 Rwandan francs. Simerwa closed the counter at 120 Rwandan francs. MTN Rwanda closed the counter at 180 Rwandan francs. Equity Bank closed the counter at 440 Rwandan francs. Kenya Commercial Bank at 370 Rwandan francs. National Media Group at 1,200 Rwandan francs. Uturi Supermarket at 104 Rwandan francs. RH Buffalo closed the counter at 526 Rwandan francs as the market closed. The currency market review of today. The Kenyan shilling buying price was 8.8 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 9 Rwandan francs. Tanzanian shilling buying price was 0.43 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 0.44 Rwandan francs. Ugandan shilling buying price was 0.28 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 0.287 Rwandan francs. Burundian franc buying price was 0.49 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 0.5 Rwandan francs. The US dollar buying price was 1,006 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 1,026 Rwandan francs. The British pound buying price was 1,319 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 1,345 Rwandan francs. The euro buying price was 1,092 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 1,114 Rwandan francs. With that, we come to the end of tonight's edition.